If you look back over that time, the people who have been the most interesting constants in sports, he would definitely be on the list.
He would absolutely. Always been gracious with his time coming on the show, and now I think I enjoy him best on Shark Tank.
Very good.
Awesome on that show.
Yeah, he's got his hands in a lot of different things, so we'll chat with him. But right now, our pleasure to welcome Smooth Lou into the studio, Louis Riddick. And you should know, Louis, last week, sitting in that chair, Ryan Clark described you, and I'm quoting this.
He did?
As the Black James Bond. That's what he said. And when I saw it, when I thought about it, I thought, you know what? Kind of works. Kind of works.
I thought Idris Elba was supposed to be the next Black James
I think so.
Bond. He's a smooth brother now.
I'm a big fan of his.
I follow him on Twitter. I'm like a groupie for Idris Elba now.
I'm with you.
Dude is legit.
Yeah,
I'm really quoting.
I'm
quoting your friend and a
you know what? Hey, Clark,
if
you're watching this or sleeping somewhere or trying to undo all them bracelets on your wrist, I appreciate it, bro. Yeah. Does anybody wear more than him?
Have some on there. Yeah.
I mean, man.
I think this was the day after Halloween, and I had commented that I had seen you guys in your costumes, and you were very serious in yours, it seemed.
You know what? I think it was just like the helmet made me look that way, but I kind of was kind of getting into it.
I was amazed how I could hear you guys talk because you both had masks.
Hey, I was hyperventilating.
Yeah, I bet.
I mean, I was getting.
You were Iron Man, and he was the Hulk.
He was
right?
the Hulk.
Yeah.
He had some issues getting that mask right, but
he's got
it was
issues,
good.
so we know that.
Speaking of superheroes, Cam Newton was at it again last night, and so let's start our football conversation there. And you made a comment that you think he just looks different than he did at any time last year.
Yeah, he's healthy now. And now, even though, all off season, the whole plan was really, theoretically, get the ball to Christian McCaffrey, get the ball to Greg Olsen, even though he's hurt and he's coming back, get the ball quickly into our playmakers' hands. Curtis Samuel, who got hurt again last night as well, and kind of take some of the pressure off of Cam. But this offense, really, it's at its best when Cam is the focal point, and then everyone else is kind of secondary from there. And last night, look, Coach Gruden said it a couple times on the broadcast. He said that the Miami Dolphins coaching staff was worried about him getting comfortable because Cam starts smiling and Cam starts running. You know how that goes. I mean, he's very much so a momentum player. And once he started getting things going, look, Miami was done, man. You saw him. You saw how he was showboating them. And it all just runs through him. And now, if last night was an indication of how he's really feeling about the season, then the rest of the NFC, look out, because Carolina may be back now for real.
95 yards rushing on 5 carries, all designed runs. And we were talking about this earlier, Lou, and I was saying, I know people wanted to protect Cam a little more, make him throw from the pocket a little more, be a little safer because we know the hits he takes and doesn't get the flags for him. My thought is he's got to play how he plays.
That's
I mean,
right.
he, no matter if it, because one thing we say is, one thing you don't say about a running quarterback is a long career, rarely. But Cam's got to be Cam. You can't really harness him too much.
Yeah, you would like for him to develop his pocket game to the point where that's where, people are then willing to elevate him into the status of the greats, because that's where all the greats really are. That's what most of them are. They're pocket passers at some point in time. And like Russell has become a little bit of that, although Russell's always going to be what he is, which is a great athlete who's going to also be able to extend plays. But you're right. You're absolutely right. If Carolina wants to win, let him go. Just let him go and take the risk.
Right.
If you want to try and force him into a box and try and save his career and see if he can tack on 4 or 5 years, then you're not going to win football games, because he's a momentum player. And when he gets rolling like that, it's beautiful to watch, but you just know you got to hold your breath every time, because as much as he tries to protect himself, he's such a big target. There's so much to hit. He's going to take some shots, and he may get hurt, but so be it.
Mike and Mike, Louis Riddick. So how good are they?
Well, with that defense and the way they are now pressuring people from a schematic perspective, they're going to put the heat on you that way. They're good on special teams. And if the offensive line can continue to gel and Jonathan Stewart continues running the football and the young receivers will develop and Greg Olsen gets back, they're legit contenders for the NFC title. Cam has to stay hot. Cam has to stay on it, because it all flows through him. It makes the NFC all the more interesting, much more interesting, I believe, than the AFC.
Diving into the weeds a little bit, because I always feel like I should, because he gets a lot of it anyway. Praise Luke Kuechly and what he does since he's come into the league. He's a leading tackler in the years he's been in the league. But Lou, just to watch him, and I remember my son saying this when he played against him at Boston College, when my son was playing O-line, I think center that year that he played him, and said, Luke would sit there and call out the plays.
Yep.
And then get mad because his teammates wouldn't be able to, make the tackles. You watch him, I mean, for people that really love to get down into the weeds, watch Luke Kuechly before a play. Watch him pointing. Watch him talking to his teammates almost all the way to the snap. It's something to behold how smart this guy is and how he dissects plays. We always talk about the quarterback getting a pre-snap read.
Yep.
I don't know if there's anybody better than Luke Kuechly doing pre-snap reads to get himself and his players in the right position.
From a mental standpoint, outside of quarterback, linebacker is the most taxing that there is because of the conflict that you're in every play as far as run pass. And you're right. Those guys have to be smart. You can't have dumb linebackers and have top-level linebackers. Those guys have to anticipate as much as anybody. And I remember in Cleveland when we used to have signal caller meetings on Monday and Tuesday where the middle linebackers, the guys who were calling the signals, and the safeties just always have to get together. And Pepper Johnson was our middle linebacker then in Cleveland. And the stuff that he knew, the way he was able to give you a jump on the play, and the way he was able to communicate with the front seven, I mean, it's something like I've never seen. And Luke is just like that, without a doubt. And, he's not the only one on that football team who's like that. Thomas Davis is one of the best linebackers, I think, to ever play in this game that just doesn't get the credit. But, look, Luke is special. That team is about as blue-collar as it gets. Yeah. Carolina's never the flashy team, the big stats team, but they are the blue-collar team that will absolutely just knock your teeth out. And it's good to see them put a whooping on a team like Miami last night, who really needs to find out what they're all about because they're on two different planes right now.
Mike and Mike, Louis Riddick is here with us with the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contract. So that's the good side of last night.
Yeah.
Then there's the bad. The Dolphins fall to 4-5. Remarkably, they've been outscored this season by 87 points. That's a worse differential than the 49ers have, and the 49ers are 1-9. Mm-hmm. So while they've won some games, they've generally been bad. What are you seeing as you watch them play?
I was just saying this before we came on. Look, I do hate to start venturing into the area of question guys' competitive makeup. I do, because it's hard. There's no way to really measure it. But there's enough evidence that when you watch tape, and if you've played the game, you understand when a guy lacks talent, and then you also understand when a guy just does not pass the eye test as far as how hard they're playing. Because I was one of those people, and I believe you were one of those people too, who survived in the league because of how hard you played. Because there was other guys who I used to sit and watch and go, man, I'm not that fast.
Oh, yeah.
I can't cover like that, but I'm smart, and I absolutely will try and break your face off when I try and hit you. And that's how I survived in the league. And when you watch guys who are so talented, standing up at the point of attack, getting their shoulders turned, not chasing the football, and you just see their body language, you know it when they may not be quitting, but they're damn sure not trying. They're not trying the way that they should be relative to what they're getting paid. And who's Adam Gase going to cut now? Who's he going to suspend now? Who's he going to sit down now? When you have too many of those guys, you're done. In the NFL, this is not Oklahoma versus Kansas 1980. You shouldn't be getting the ball run on you for almost 300 yards and having 500 yards of total up. This is the NFL. This isn't college. When that happens, there's a problem on your team the way it's put together. There's a problem in Miami with the way that team's put together.
There's a problem there, and there's a problem in New York that became public with the anonymous talk, and then players, their own teammates of these anonymous players, calling their own teammates coward for being anonymous. Then you have the coach and McAdoo saying things as well. So take it from two sides, because we can with you as a player in that locker room. Then when you were in management, how you deal with something like that from both sides. Start first as a player, as a teammate in the locker room.
Yeah, you know what? One of those things, that's where now, I mean, you know that the best teams are policed from the inside out. You hope that there's some kind of leadership structure within the locker room that right now can kind of really identify really who those guys are and what the issue is, and kind of reinforce the message, because this isn't like college or high school where what are you going to do? You're going to fight the guy,
right?
You're going to take him outside and whoop him and say, look, you better start trying. You have to kind of tell him, look, if this coaching staff is not here, if you don't want to play for this coaching staff, guess what? Management, who may be here or may not be here, or whoever's going to come in here, they're going to see this stuff. So you may think you're sending a message to your coach now that you don't like him. They're going to send you down the road, man. That's the NFL. There is no more patience in the NFL anymore. With the way people are turning things around so fast, new coaches come in, and all of a sudden you go from worst to first, you're out of here. So you hope that the leadership structure communicates that. From a management perspective, look, quite honestly, when you have guys who display that kind of lack of competitive character, it's your fault. Somewhere along the way, you misevaluated something. And so you're kind of a passenger now. There's no in personnel, there's nothing you can do at this point. Your work is January, February, March, April, when you're going Senior Bowl, Combine, Draft, Pro Days. That's when you do your work. Right now, you're kind of looking at the fruits of your labor, and you're going, maybe I messed it up. Maybe I picked the wrong guys.
That's such a fascinating way of looking at it. And let me ask you this, because that's a team that much of it was thrown together.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of teams that they acquired a bunch of their players through the draft, and they've been together a long time, and maybe those guys will have the ups and the downs together. The Giants went out, not this past offseason, but the one before, and they brought in a lot of guys. They spent a lot of money on people who are essentially strangers to each other. So when everything was going well, like it was last year, that's all good. Things start going in the wrong direction, and you don't have those relationships for them to fall back on.
That is a great point. That is the danger of comprising your football team mainly of free agents, because what they are, they're hired help necessarily. They don't, and the analogy I always use, because I heard this was told to me once, is when you draft players, these guys are it's almost like a college atmosphere. You come in the same class, the same draft class. If that's the only team that you know, you're very much so invested. You bleed that color. This is my football team. It's kind of like if I go to University of Pittsburgh or you go to Notre Dame, you're always a Fighting Irish. That's always your school. When the team that drafts you, if you stay there a while with your draft class, this is my team. Yeah, I'm getting paid. Yes, this is the pros, but this is my team. So when things start going bad, then you start talking about this is not how the Eagles play. This is not how the Browns play. This is not who we are. But when you're free agent, I've been a part of teams that have been comprised that way from the front office perspective. And all of a sudden, those guys just splinter and fracture. And all of a sudden, then it's just about, hey, let me just refresh my app and make sure my direct deposit's hitting. Yeah. Because I'm out of here. And when the team meeting starts at 9 o'clock, I'm walking in at 8:59. I'm not down in the weight room trying to get in some extra. They don't invest the same way. Why do you think everybody emphasizes the draft the way they do? Because that builds that camaraderie and that togetherness. Free agency, it's dangerous when you have too many of them, and I think you're seeing that now.
Man, that is a great point, and that's the part that people don't see. When you used to get that lift in before the meeting, and all of a sudden you don't.
Yep.
When you used to watch a little bit of extra film, and we got the fellas in it to watch a little extra film after practice when you came in, and all of a sudden you don't. Those are the little things that add up on the field and start to splinter as well. That is a great point.
Well, I was going to ask one more on the Giants, just because I think the most interesting thing, and Golick, you brought it up earlier, I think it was this morning or maybe yesterday, certainly everyone is talking about it, because this season is hopelessly lost, and there will be significant change there, and we expect it to happen both on the sideline and maybe in the front office. But how about at the quarterback position? As you evaluate that situation, with Eli at his age and everything else, what is your best guess as to how that's going to play itself out?
That's a tough one.